A leaked email published by Wikileaks sparked intrigue by referencing the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh. The leak of a peculiar email referencing the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh, allegedly obtained from a Freedom of Information Act request to the US State Department in December 2018, stirred a wave of fascination and speculation around the world. Unlike typical releases involving political affairs or corporate misconduct, this particular leak stood out for its extraordinary content, veering into the realms of ancient mythology, arcane knowledge, and potential government involvement in historical mysteries. The very idea that American officials might be seeking or already in possession of information about the legendary Sumerian king Gilgamesh, and even the burial sites of the Nephilim, beings described in biblical accounts, triggered intense discussions among researchers and those intrigued by the hidden layers of human history. At the center of this narrative is the notion that the US government had shown interest in a mythical resurrection chamber linked to Gilgamesh. The leaked email allegedly contained a direct request for information pertaining to this chamber, Gilgamesh's remains, and burial sites connected to the Nephilim. 1 month following the commencement of the Iraq War, online news articles emerged reporting the discovery of the tomb of Gilgamesh. However, it has been indicated that this was merely when mainstream media began to cover the story, and it is suggested that the actual discovery occurred several months prior to the 2003 invasion. The initial reports, which spread across various news outlets, claimed that archaeologists had found evidence of the ancient ruler's burial site in southern Iraq, sparking excitement among historians, archaeologists, and enthusiasts of ancient civilizations. However, shortly after these sensational claims were made, the news stories mysteriously began to disappear from websites, leaving only fragmented traces of what had once seemed like a groundbreaking discovery. While mainstream historians and archaeologists view such content as speculative at best, the very existence of such a request within official channels lent an unusual sense of weight to the matter. It suggested that at least some sectors within government circles might be treating such topics with a degree of seriousness rarely acknowledged publicly. Gilgamesh, a central figure in ancient Mesopotamian mythology, was said to be a demigod, 2/3 divine and 1/3 human, who ruled the city of Uruk around the 3rd millennium BCE. His adventures, recorded in the Epic of Gilgamesh, are widely recognized as one of the oldest surviving works of literature. The epic chronicles his heroic deeds, interactions with gods, and a personal quest to uncover the secrets of eternal life. Although there is some archaeological support for the historical existence of a ruler named Gilgamesh, the mythical elements of his story, particularly those involving divine encounters and immortality, remain the subject of debate. What makes the resurrection chamber reference so striking is that it is not a known element of Sumerian mythology. For some researchers, this opens a tantalizing possibility that ancient societies may have preserved esoteric knowledge that powerful modern institutions are either trying to uncover or have already concealed. What intensifies this theory is the geopolitical backdrop surrounding Iraq in the early 2000s. German archaeologists, during their exploration in Iraq, claimed to have found the possible burial site of Gilgamesh near the ancient city of Uruk. This discovery, however, was soon overshadowed by major global events. Within months, Iraq became the focus of international military intervention. The presence of US forces in regions of historical and archaeological significance, including the ancient site of Babylon, only fueled speculation. Reports emerged that US military personnel had set up outposts within historic ruins, removed artifacts, and even constructed infrastructure like helicopter pads on top of heritage sites. To observers already inclined to question official narratives, these actions suggested a covert mission, one that might have involved the retrieval of ancient relics or knowledge tied to figures like Gilgamesh or the Nephilim. For those who subscribe to theories of suppressed history, this leak represented more than a curiosity. It was a potential validation. The idea that powerful governments are actively exploring or safeguarding knowledge from humanity's earliest civilizations resonates deeply with those who believe that conventional historical timelines may be incomplete or deliberately obscured. They argue that findings which challenge dominant paradigms, such as advanced pre-modern technologies, extraterrestrial contact, or hybrid beings, are often kept from public knowledge under the guise of national security or academic orthodoxy. This raises important questions about transparency and the limits of what is publicly disclosed. The very fact that such subjects appear within governmental correspondence highlights a broader cultural moment. In recent years, public interest in ancient mysteries has surged, with renewed attention on megalithic structures, lost civilizations, and the possibility of extraterrestrial influences in human development. This interest has been amplified by media, documentaries, and an expanding digital space where theories, both grounded and speculative, can circulate freely. The leaked email concerning Gilgamesh's supposed resurrection chamber represents a fascinating intersection of myth, archaeology, and modern intrigue. Whether viewed as a hoax, a misunderstood document, or a genuine glimpse into clandestine inquiries, it captures the enduring allure of humanity's past and the possibilities that lie within it. For those drawn to the mystery, the connection between ancient heroes, biblical giants, and contemporary geopolitics is more than coincidence. It is a signal of deeper truths waiting to be uncovered. The event serves as a reminder that myth and history are not always distinct realms. Throughout human civilization, legends often carry echoes of truth that may be distorted, buried, or waiting to be rediscovered. As the boundaries between historical scholarship and speculative inquiry continue to blur, stories like this highlight the enduring power of ancient narratives and the curiosity they inspire. As of right now, the leaked email stands as a compelling artifact of modern myth-making. It reflects how the digital age has transformed ancient history into a living conversation, where government records and ancient epics converge in unexpected ways. Whether it was a sincere inquiry, a planted story, or a misunderstanding, it has reignited global interest in mysteries long forgotten, and perhaps, just perhaps, still waiting to be uncovered. In the shadowy world of military operations, where secrecy is paramount, and the line between reality and myth often blurs, there exist tales of encounters that defy explanation and challenge the boundaries of our understanding. These mysterious military encounters, shrouded in secrecy and speculation, offer tantalizing glimpses into a realm where the ordinary gives way to the extraordinary, and the known world collides with the unknown. Anonymous revealed that a UFO was taken out above Russia. An unnamed source claims that there have been multiple reports of unexplained objects over Russia's Smolensk city. At least 3 unexplained flying objects were successfully intercepted and brought down in the vicinity of Sevastopol, according to information from officials. The secretive and anonymous group of digital activists, known as Anonymous, well known for their efforts to fight corruption and protect transparency, has released a statement. They have promised to reveal information about the alleged participation of the Russian government with 3 unidentified objects that were allegedly brought down within Russian territory in this mysterious announcement. The news spread quickly over the internet, igniting in-depth debates and conversations in every corner of the globe. The group claims that the incident happened back in November and that 3 unidentified objects were shot down by Russian jets. This incident has drawn a lot of interest and examination and has been the focus of conjecture and debate. Renowned online activist organization Anonymous made headlines lately when they revealed a series of carefully encrypted documents coupled with powerful first-hand testimonies. They said that the data clearly pointed to the existence of not 1, but 3 mysterious drones that had successfully entered Russian airspace and been shot down by the nation's military. The materials that were provided had a wide range of evidence, such as audio communications, pictures, and radar data, all of which appeared to support the extraordinary story. The revelation revealed amazing details, revealing that these mysterious objects were capable of flying above and beyond anything that is currently known about human technology. Their movements were incredibly erratic and appeared to defy basic physics, enthralling even the most seasoned jet pilots with their breathtaking and seemingly unachievable maneuvers. Considering that the details were only made public today, Russian authorities have not responded to this problem. In the midst of this mysterious incident, a number of people and groups dedicated to researching unidentified flying objects emerged and moved to carefully review the information presented by the mysterious group Anonymous. A multinational team of researchers began a thorough investigation into the incident, carefully examining all relevant details and verifying the testimonies of several eyewitnesses. A consensus regarding the compelling evidence that emerged, which combined compelling and perplexing elements, was achieved after consulting a varied range of experts. Not only did this evidence hold their interest, but it also offered intriguing hints that suggest more research into the possibilities of sophisticated life. One witness reported seeing 3 bright objects in the sky. They were later reported to have been shot down by military aircraft. The eyewitness's statement suggests a noteworthy incident involving unknown aerial phenomena. Those who were skeptical continued to hold their doubts, suggesting that the items in issue could actually be drones or unmanned aerial vehicles. Many sightings and experiences have been reported over time, yet they have been shrouded in mystery and skepticism. An unexpected role has been played in this quest to solve the mystery surrounding unexplained flying objects by the loosely affiliated group of digital activists known as Anonymous. Fundamentally, the motivation behind Anonymous has always been a commitment to transparency, accountability, and the never-ending pursuit of authenticity. By means of thorough research and the sharing of information regarding unidentified flying objects, the well-known group Anonymous is actively working to remove the veil of secrecy surrounding these mysterious incidents. Strongly believing that every person has a right to know about potential extraterrestrial encounters, Anonymous is adamantly opposed to governments concealing this important information. Their steadfast dedication is focused on providing information on the presence of unexplained objects, which in turn helps us comprehend and value the possibility that extraterrestrial beings are visiting Earth. For Anonymous, this project is a logical progression from its main goal of exposing hidden truths and promoting transparency. Governments have always taken the stance that events involving unexplained flying objects are either untrue or leave room for interpretation. Many people think that implementing secrecy measures is necessary to prevent panic, protect national security, or maintain control over technology that are secret. However, this strategy has often left residents without access to important information, which has led to mistrust and the development of a number of hypotheses. Anonymous is an organization that is dedicated to bridging the long-standing gap between public awareness and official secrecy in its pursuit of the truth about unexplained objects. This group is committed to provide the public with accurate and trustworthy information about UFO experiences so that people can build well-rounded opinions and understand puzzling incidents that are still unexplained. Through pushing for increased government transparency, Anonymous hopes to build public trust and reduce the amount of unfounded rumors that are circulated. The fact that this is not an isolated incident involving the removal of mysterious objects from restricted airspace is highly intriguing. Disappearance of Richard Colvin Cox. A second-year cadet named Richard Colvin Cox vanished from West Point, New York's United States Military Academy. A young man who may have had George as his first name paid him 3 visits in a week in January 1950. After leaving the academy premises for the 3rd time, Cox and George vanished from sight. An additional cadet's eyewitness testimony stated that the 2 males appeared to have known each other outside of West Point. The only other West Point cadet who has vanished into thin air is Cox. Cox said to a friend that he always had an after-school job and did not have time to be on athletic teams in high school. When he was a teenager, he worked full-time throughout the summers. According to Myhafer, he fell and cut his arm badly on a scythe while working on a road crew in Mansfield, who cited a witness who was questioned more than 30 years later by researcher Marshall Jacobs. Without delay, Cox returned home to seek assistance from his mother, a Christian Science reader. She declined to make an ambulance call. After the cut became infected, a woman who lived next door accompanied him to the doctor, as stated by Myhafer. Following the incident, Cox had a noticeable scar. Cox volunteered for service in the U.S. Army in 1946, having graduated from a Mansfield public high school. He enlisted in the U.S. Constabulary, an Army gendarmerie unit created to serve as a security and occupation force akin to the police in Germany under Allied occupation. He was assigned to Headquarters Company's S2 Intelligence Division of the 6th Constabulary Regiment, which was stationed in Coburg in the German-American occupation zone in May 1947. Cox applied for and was accepted to West Point later in 1947. He arrived in January 1948 to the United States Military Academy Preparatory School, which was then housed at Stewart Field, close to the academy itself. In May 1948, Cox enrolled at West Point, where he excelled. He had an academic ranking of roughly 100 out of 550 students. Just 1 month before his disappearance, he joined the West Point athletic team and participated in a National Collegiate Athletics Association competition. Cox was engaged to Betty Timmons, and they intended to tie the knot following Cox's graduation from West Point. On Saturday, January 7, 1950, at 4:45 in the afternoon, a guy called Peter Haynes, Cox's classmate at West Point. Haynes took calls on behalf of the company members while serving as the temporary charge of quarters for Cadet Company B2, located in the North Barracks. A later statement from him stated that the caller's tone was rough and patronizing, almost insulting. The man said that he wanted him to come down to the hotel. "Tell him George called and he will recognize me." A man came into Grant Hall at around 5:30, where cadets could meet visitors, and asked to see Cox. Cox received a call from the duty cadet informing him that he had a guest. Later, the cadet reported that the visitor was around 185 pounds in weight and about 6 feet tall. He wore a trench coat with a belt, but he didn't wear a cap. He also had fair hair and skin. Cox shook hands with the man as he entered the hall. The on-duty cadet subsequently noted he seemed happy to see him. Cox noted that he would be having dinner off campus when he checked out in the Company B2 departure book. Cox then confessed to his roommates that they sat in the man's parked car and drank from a bottle of whiskey instead of eating dinner. His two roommates later revealed that after signing the departure book, taking a shower, and sleeping off the effects of the booze, Cox went back to Cadet Company B2. As a joke, his housemates took a picture of him dozing off while hunched over his desk. At some unspecified hour that night, Cox changed the military time he had recorded in the departure book from 1923 to 1823 in order to give the impression that he had attended the cadet supper formation at 6:30. He had, in reality, omitted the formation. It took 2 years for an agent of the US Army Criminal Investigation Command to find this fact after having the departure book inspected in a lab. Had the change been detected in January 1950 while it was still new, Cox may have faced accusations of breaking the cadet honor code and possibly faced expulsion. Before heading to the Sunday chapel session the following morning, Cox told his roommates about his guest. The individual was a former ranger in the United States Army who had served in the same unit that Cox had in Germany, Cox claimed. Cox claimed that the man had boasted about chopping off Germans' private parts after the war and enjoyed boasting about taking out Germans. He also told Cox a tale about getting a German girl pregnant and then causing her to vanish in order to stop her from giving birth. Cox signed out again that afternoon to see the man, and he returned at roughly 4:30. There were no incidents for the next 6 days. Cox told his roommates about his visitor once. He seemed to think the man was disgusting when he said he hoped he wouldn't have to see the fellow again. Cox attended a basketball game between Rutgers University and the Army on Saturday, January 14th. Subsequently, he was observed conversing with a man believed to be George, though the cadet witnessing the two exchanged words provided a quite different account from the cadet who had encountered the stranger in Grant Hall on January 7th. George was described as rough-looking and dark-haired by the January 14th eyewitness. Once back in his room, Cox told a roommate that he was signing out to have dinner with his guest once more, but he seemed not apprehensive, just sort of disgusted. The two men disappeared without a trace as they exited the academy's premises. Cox was expected back by 11 at night. Cadets occasionally returned late, so no concern was raised when he did not return. At 2:30 in the morning, his continuing absence was brought to the attention of a higher-ranking commander. However, as cadets were known to remain out late into the night, even though it would result in consequences, no action was done. His roommates told their supervisor of what they knew about the situation early on Sunday morning, and both the CID and the New York State Police were notified. The probe also attracted the attention of the FBI. A public request for information was issued on local radio stations 3 days after Cox vanished. Both ground soldiers and helicopters conducted a thorough search of the West Point grounds. A neighboring pond was emptied, the Lusk Reservoir was hauled, and the Hudson River's borders were examined. The 2-month-long manhunt yielded no noteworthy leads. Looking through Army records for a soldier who served with Cox and fit George's description turned up only people who were unable to be at West Point when the missing person vanished. An investigation into Cox's service in Germany turned up no unusual information. The argument that he had purposefully escaped from West Point was rejected, since he had left 2 sets of civilian clothes and $87, equal to $850, after inflation in his room. Cox was reported absent without leave on March 15, 1950. In 1957, he was formally pronounced deceased. What happened to Paul Whipkey? An abandoned automobile was discovered in the desert 42 miles from the closest town by a fish and wildlife warden in Death Valley, California, on August 17, 1958. There was no evidence of theft, and the keys remained in the ignition. Nearly 500 miles away in Fort Ord, California, Lieutenant Paul Whipkey was the registered owner of the automobile. According to the Army, Whipkey was actually wanted as a deserter and had been gone for 5 weeks. However, there existed an issue. According to all accounts, Paul Whipkey was the ideal soldier. Nobody who knows him thinks he could have absconded. Paul's brother is Carl Whipkey, and said that in his opinion, Paul did not leave. Paul's actions were wholly uncharacteristic of him. He was a committed American soldier who loved his job, and he believes that the Army was fully aware of what had transpired with him. He said that it was a part of a large-scale smokescreen deception. Paul Whipkey graduated with honours from Reserve Officers Training Corps. He was selected to attend the Army Aviation School following basic training. Paul operated an observation plane at the Nevada camp of Camp Desert Rock during the atomic bomb test in 1957. After being exposed to radioactive fallout, he quickly developed strange spots on his skin. Paul had to have all of his teeth out while he was stationed in Fort Ord, California, several months later. Paul left Fort Ord late one afternoon on July 10, 1958. He informed his friends that he was traveling less than a mile to the town of Monterey. Paul, nevertheless, never came back. Paul took unauthorized time off from work or other duties the following morning and was officially labeled a deserter 30 days later. His automobile was found in Death Valley the next week. Paul, according to the Army, appeared to have ended himself 350 miles away from the base at White's Motel in Mojave, California, on the day he fled. Paul had put his signature on the visitor book at the motel. Paul's car contained a petrol receipt, according to Army investigators. It revealed that he had filled up his automobile with petrol in Mojave before driving 145 kilometers to Death Valley. Paul's quarters at Fort Ord were looted by 2 troops the exact morning he went missing. Everything was taken out, even Paul's personal effects. Carl, his brother, thought this was a strange, possibly unlawful procedure, and he said that according to regulations, you have to notify your next of kin or legal representative before packing your goods, adding that they didn't tell them anything at the time. He further added that as soon as he found out this had happened, he was really suspicious of it. Paul's automobile was spotted by a witness traveling through Death Valley 4 weeks after he was declared missing, and he mentioned that a man dressed in a military outfit was operating it. Nevertheless, Paul was dressed in civilian clothes when he left Fort Ord. Paul did not smoke, as evidenced by the stack of cigarette butts that was discovered next to the automobile when it was located. Paul's family was also concerned about the Army's 9-month lag before searching for his remains. Carl Whipkey didn't learn anything about the car until by chance. He said that his unofficial call to an enlisted man at Fort Ord was the only way he found out about the car. He added that the man returned his call in 30 minutes and said that this is classified information. Please do not tell anyone where I heard it. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Lewis, Paul's commanding officer, was similarly upset by the investigation into his disappearance. He said that it nearly seemed unreal that he would be labeled a deserter. He wanted to know what the foundation was and was told that he should forget this and not ask for any more information. He added that the door was essentially shut on his face. In 1957, Paul Whipkey and Charles Lewis were both stationed in Nevada, and Lewis remembers the day he witnessed Paul being spoken to by 2 men. He said that he observed that they had bypassed reporting to operations, which was necessary for security reasons, and instead had gone straight to the airstrip. He then requested their identification from them, and they presented their military identity cards, and the photo confirmed the 2's identities. In the ensuing weeks, Lewis frequently observed Paul conversing with the same 2 men. Lieutenant Whipkey's demeanor and personality traits had a rigidity to them, when he would return after they had left. Lewis now speculates that Paul might have met with the two individuals for the following straightforward reason. The CIA recruited people all around the country in large quantities during that time, and furthermore, Lieutenant Whipkey would have been a superb choice for the job given his abilities. Carl, Paul's brother, believes there might be some validity to this as well. He said that he was told over the phone in January that he was going on an assignment and that he was going to establish himself as a celebrity, but then he vanished from sight. He was talking to him about it when some officers moved in front of his desk, interrupting him before he could explain what it was. Paul may have been enlisted in a combined Army-CIA program at the time. Paul drove to the Californian town of Mojave after leaving Fort Ord and checked into White's Motel. It's possible that he was picked up there by CIA or Army intelligence officers and flown to Southeast Asia, maybe from the adjacent Edwards Air Force Base. Carl now thinks his brother left his automobile with the Army and was sent on a covert assignment. Before transporting it into the desert, he believes they held it for 4 weeks. However, not knowing the response leaves him pondering constantly. He believes the Army towed his vehicle into the desert in order to dispose of it. He said that he and the family could accept this if they would just state that he passed away while on a secret assignment. The family is made up of all American citizens, and we would respect that. Additionally, the family will not be at peace until the Army informs them of what transpired. When the Army investigated Paul Whipkey's case in 1982, they discovered no evidence to justify his designation as a deserter.